Some bands burned so bright in 1977 that the whole world noticed. Others burned just as hot, maybe hotter, and somehow slipped through the cracks of history.
We are like ships in the night.
If the overlooked and underappreciated side of rock's golden era keeps you coming back for more, consider subscribing so you never miss a video like this. Number 10. Pentagram. Bobby Liebling and his rotating cast of musicians spent the mid-1970s recording songs with a down-tuned, crushing weight that simply did not exist anywhere else on the American hard rock landscape. Tracks like Forever My Queen carried a slower, darker, and heavier quality than anything Black Sabbath had released in years. And Pentagram was doing it without a label, without a manager, and without an audience. The riffs felt like they belonged to a future decade, not the era that produced them. Those recordings sat unreleased for years before surfacing on compilations like First Days Here, released in 2002 by Relapse Records, and the reaction from the metal world was immediate. Guitarists from bands like St. Vitus and Cathedral cited those tracks as foundational blueprints for doom metal as a genre. Pentagram never charted, never toured arenas, and never secured a stable lineup. But their mid-1970s output, captured during their most active and creatively restless period, is now studied like scripture by anyone serious about the origins of heavy music. Number 9. The Dictators. By the spring of 1977, punk was arriving in full force, but New York's Dictators had already been doing something raw and funnier for 2 years. Their 1975 debut, Go Girl Crazy, was a snarling blend of hard rock and proto-punk wrapped in a sense of humor that nobody else in the scene could replicate.
We can't sweat and stick. We can't eat and drink. Don't do what
Tracks like Master Race Rock and I Live For Cars and Girls delivered the kind of visceral, self-aware energy that the Ramones would refine into a global phenomenon just 1 year later on their own self-titled debut in April of 1976.
World except for cars and good girls.
They were a direct influence on the Ramones and dozens of others who came after. Yet the Dictators never cracked the mainstream. Their irreverence worked against them in an industry that wanted either polished pop or serious art rock. Critics who loved them in retrospect largely ignored them in real time. They remain one of the most important bands that never got their due. Number 8. Bebop Deluxe. Bill Nelson built something extraordinary with Bebop Deluxe. By 1977, the band had already released 4 studio albums, each one shifting the sonic landscape slightly, bending glam and art rock into shapes that felt new and unpredictable. Nelson's guitar playing was among the most inventive in Britain at the time, drawing comparisons to Robert Fripp while still being immediately accessible. Their 1976 record Modern Music reached number 12 on the UK albums chart, their commercial peak, and yet even that modest success could not translate into the kind of sustained audience that bands of far lesser ambition enjoyed for decades.
A dream that has no dreamer, like a cloud without a sky.
Their album Drastic Plastic, released in 1978, would push further into electronic territory.
Too hard to swallow, we're naked to
But in '77, they were at a crossroads, respected by musicians and critics while remaining just outside the circle of bands that audiences actually knew by name. Nelson dissolved the group in January of 1978, walked away at the height of his powers, and pursued solo work that was equally brilliant and equally overlooked. Number 7. Cock Robin. Not every overlooked band from 1977 came from the rock side of the spectrum. Cock Robin was an American act, Los Angeles-based, that leaned into melodic pop songwriting with a precision and craft that rivaled anything on FM radio at the time. Their vocal harmonies were exceptional, and their arrangements demonstrated a sophistication that pointed ahead to the glossy pop of the early 1980s. But they arrived at the wrong moment. Radio programmers wanted either the sprawling arena rock of Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles or the stripped-down energy of punk. A carefully crafted melodic pop band occupied no man's land. They quietly disappeared without a proper send-off, leaving behind recordings that sound more polished today than most of what actually charted. Number 6. Nuts. Nuts were a British hard rock band who released 4 albums between 1974 and 1977, and every one of them delivered.
Started in the black sedan, there said he was a plan. The mistake it made me.
Raw, direct, and driven by guitarist Mick Davenport's sharp riffs and Dave Lloyd's rough and ready vocals, they were the kind of band that could hold a room on pure energy alone. Their sound sat comfortably alongside early AC/DC and Status Quo without sounding like either. Their self-titled debut from 1974 and the follow-up Nuts 2 from 1975 demonstrated a band fully formed from the start, comfortable on stage at venues like the Marquee Club in London, where they built their earliest and most fervent following. They never found a manager or a label willing to push them toward a wider audience, and the punk wave that arrived in 1977 effectively ended their momentum. Hard rock bands that could not convincingly reinvent themselves were dropped or ignored almost overnight. Nuts split in 1978, leaving behind 4 albums that represent some of the finest unheralded British hard rock of the decade. Number 5. Streetwalkers. Streetwalkers rose from the ashes of Family, one of the most respected and eccentric British rock bands of the early 1970s. Roger Chapman carried his unmistakable voice, weathered and urgent, into this new outfit alongside guitarist Charlie Whitney, and the result was a harder, bluesier sound that lost none of the original band's intensity. Their 1977 album, Vicious But Fair, earned strong reviews and demonstrated a tightness that came from years of shared experience. Still, they could not convert critical appreciation into commercial traction. The same audience that had followed Family seemed to scatter after the split, and new listeners were harder to reach in a market fragmenting rapidly. The Streetwalkers folded not long after, and Chapman eventually built a devoted cult following as a solo artist in Europe, particularly in Germany, where his work finally received the recognition it deserved. Number 4. String-Driven Thing. String-Driven Thing operated in a space that barely existed, weaving together folk, progressive rock, and art song in a way that was entirely their own. By 1977, the Scottish group had been working for several years, releasing albums on Charisma Records alongside Genesis and Van der Graaf Generator, and drawing comparisons that were both flattering and limiting. Their 1973 album, The Machine That Cried, remains the centerpiece of their catalog, a record that critic after critic has returned to in the decades since as evidence of just how singular their vision was. Their instrumentation was unconventional. Violin sat alongside electric guitar. The vocals were raw and literary. The songs demanded attention in an era when most listeners wanted to let music wash over them rather than lean in. They were, in the truest sense, a musician's band. Other players admired them enormously, but without radio support or a clearly defined genre home, they drifted out of view without fanfare. Number 3, Tucky Buzzard. Some bands exist almost entirely as a footnote, and then you actually hear them and wonder how that happened. Tucky Buzzard was a British hard rock and blues rock band active from around 1970 through the mid-70s and into the tail end of the decade. Their sound was heavy, swinging, and deeply rooted in American blues, filtered through a distinctly British sensibility. Produced in part by Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones, they had connections and credibility that should have opened doors. The recordings were strong, the performances were tight, and yet the commercial machinery never engaged on their behalf. They toured, they recorded, they built a small but passionate following, and then they were gone. Today their albums fetch serious prices among collectors of obscure British hard rock, which tells you everything about the gap between the audience they deserved and the one they actually found.
Oh, yeah. Give me all of it.
Number 2, Bram Stoker. The name alone should have made them unforgettable. Bram Stoker was a British progressive rock group whose 1972 album, Heavy Rock Spectacular, remains one of the most genuinely strange and compelling records to emerge from that era. By 1977, the band had largely receded, but their recordings circulated among enthusiasts of progressive and heavy rock who valued the unusual above the polished. The album mixed orchestral ambition with hard rock aggression in ways that felt genuinely experimental. There was nothing cynical about it. The band seemed sincerely committed to pushing two worlds together and seeing what happened. The result was difficult to classify, and because of that, difficult to sell. Prog was already splintering by the mid-1970s, and a band operating at its outer edges had almost no commercial path forward. Today, original pressings of Heavy Rock Spectacular sell for upward of £100 on the collector market, a price that reflects exactly the kind of belated recognition that came too late to matter to the musicians themselves. They are remembered now, if at all, as a curio worth discovering, which is both unfair and somehow appropriate. Number 1, Prelude. End with something warm. End with Prelude, a British vocal harmony trio whose delicate, shimmering sound stood entirely apart from the hard rock and progressive excess that surrounded them. Formed in the north of England in the early 1970s, they built their reputation on acoustic arrangement and voices that intertwined with a naturalness that could not be manufactured.
There was a band playing in my head, and
their 1974 version of After the Gold Rush, the Neil Young composition, became their best-known recording, showcasing a tenderness and precision that earned them admirers far beyond the folk circuit.
You watched his daughter perform, and it's shame and rage.
getaway. You can almost
The single reached number 21 on the UK charts in February of 1974, a modest but genuine commercial moment that demonstrated exactly what they were capable of when the right song found the right ears.
In a burned out basement with